Good evening, children, and welcome back to the biology class. Last week we were doing the lesson 17, breathing and exchange of gas. We are continuing with the same chapter with the regulation of respiration. As you know, that all the functioning of all the systems is regulated by two other systems, which are the nervous system and the hormonal control. Nervous and the hormonal control, right? So there are certain respiratory centers in the brain which will detect the amount of CO2 or hydrogen ion concentration or temperature of the body and thereby alter the inspiration or expiration rate. Okay, thereby completely altering the breathing itself, right? So what are these respiratory centers? They are the respiratory rhythm centers, pneumotoxic center, chemosensitive areas. The first one is the respiratory rhythm centers, which are the inspiratory and expiratory centers. They are seen in the medulla oblongata, and it helps in regulating the rhythm, the breathing rate, increase in a rate or decrease in the rate of breathing. That is controlled by these respiratory centers, and it is present in the medulla oblongata of the brain. Okay, now coming to pneumotaxic center, which is seen in the pons area. Pons is near to the medulla, medulla oblongata, not medulla, cerebellum actually, cerebellum, and which have connection of both the cerebellum and the cerebrum. This pons area have connection to both of these areas. Okay, upon pneumotaxic center is present in the pons area. It will help in controlling the respiratory rhythm centers. This will control the first one, which is the respiratory rhythm center, and impulses from the center reduces the duration of inspiration. So what does it do? It is controlling the respiratory rhythm center, and not only that, the information from this area will reduce the duration of inspiration. Inspiration, which is intake of oxygen into the lungs. Okay. Chemosensitive area. The third one is chemosensitive area. Chemicals. Chemosensitive means sensitive to chemicals, which are actually carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion concentration, which is seen adjacent to the rhythmic center, which is just found near to the rhythmic center, and it will increase in the concentration of CO2 and hydrogen ion, activates this center. So this is going to detect the increase in the carbon dioxide level as well as hydrogen ion concentration, and it will activate the center, which in turn signals the rhythmic center, which is again controlling because rhythmic center is controlling inspiration and expiration rate. Thereby this one, after detecting CO2 and hydrogen ion, it will signal the respiratory centers to increase or decrease the breathing rate. Okay, and also there are receptors in aortic arch. What is aorta? Aorta is the biggest branch of starting from the ventricle, which is the main trunk, which will supply blood to all the other parts of the body. Right, the aorta. Near there you can find there are certain receptors, and also the carotid artery. They also recognize changes in CO2 and hydrogen ion concentration and send signals to the rhythmic center. Next, we'll go to the disorders of the respiratory system. It is problems with the, not diseases, we're talking about disorders of the respiratory system. Okay, now the first one is asthma. Asthma is a condition where people with asthma will have difficulty in breathing. They have wheezing symptoms like wheezing and all. right? So it is the difficulty in breathing causing wheezing due to inflammation of the bronchi. See, inflammation of the bronchi is shown here. Inflammation of the bronchi means that is the lining of the bronchi is inflamed. That is the inflammation of bronchi and bronchioles. It becomes very narrow. The passage becomes very narrow and the people find very difficulty in breathing. Okay, right. The next disorder is emphysema. I had mentioned earlier in this chapter what is emphysema, where the alveoli's elasticity is completely lost, and thereby it will decrease the respiratory surface, and it cannot squeeze the air outside, or it cannot blow up taking in air, right? So finally the breathing rate is altered, or breathing is decreased. So damage of alveolar walls is called as emphysema, and it decreases the respiratory surface, and major cause is cigarette smoking. The third and most common of the disease of the respiratory system is the occupational respiratory disorders. Now people work in many different places, okay, like working in the places where asbestos is made. So when they are exposed to these dust from these asbestos. They are working in coal mines or and places like that. Okay, so then these people, this disease is This disease can be found out only after long exposure. Immediately the people will not show symptoms. After long time inhaling these dust and smoke and other things from these areas, people may have problem in their breathing, or people may have problem in their lungs. Then only they go to doctor, and by the time it is too late now. Okay, now that is why nowadays at the work sites people are given masked, to wear mask. Okay, so that they do not inhale these kind of pollutants like asbestos and coal and other different dust from their workplaces. Okay, so the disease caused by inhaling asbestos powder or asbestos dust is called as asbestosis, and taking in coal dust, small pieces, particles of coal into the lungs is called as pneumoconiosis. Okay, right. So these are some only given. There are many areas where people work and they are exposed to those the areas where they work, they are exposed to that particular dust from the place. Okay, so the different names are given. Only two things are mentioned for you, which is asbestosis and pneumoconiosis. Okay, so this is called as occupational. Because of their occupation, they get the disorders. So it is called as occupational respiratory disorders. Thank you all.